This is a highlight of today, if I can say so, because I'm delighted to have Sebastian Herkner with me here, who, if you don't know him, then, well, I don't know. What should they do if they don't know you? I know what I know what you should do if you don't. I will read out a short biography, which I thought I'd have a bit of fun with this, Sebastian. I asked ChatGPT who you are, and asked ChatGPT to generate a short biography, and this is what it came up with. So you can tell me whether this is correct or not. It says here that Sebastian Herkner is a renowned German designer known for his innovative approach to product design and his meticulous attention to detail. I mean, you could have written that yourself. But it says here he was born on February the 19th, 1981. No, who's that then?
No, it's March.
In Bad Mergentheim,
Yes.
Germany. You studied product design at Offenbach University of Art and Design, and later gained practical experience by interning at well-known design studios. I mean, I know you did a stint at Stella McCartney.
Yeah.
It says here that you founded your own design studio in Offenbach in 2006. Why did you stay in Offenbach? I'm sure you've had this question before, but what was... The acorn didn't fall very far from the oak tree.
Yeah, well, hello everyone. I started in Offenbach, I felt comfortable, I had my friends there, relationship there. And actually it's very close to the Frankfurt airport, so it was always the possibility to leave.
Good way of
immediately, yeah.
It says here you, according to ChatGPT, your work spans various disciplines, including furniture, lighting, accessories, and tableware, blah, 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 playful, innovative use of materials. Okay, brands and manufacturers include Pulpo, Moroso, Classicon, Ligne Rosé. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot more. I mean, let that be our starting point, Sebastian. It's fair to say that your work, and I'm not American, I'm British, so I'm not flattering you, but you're so prolific. You have a huge body of work, relatively speaking. You have this, you've worked with a lot of brands. How do you do it? I mean, how does this, the rate at which you work, where there's no compromise on quality, is quite astounding. Give us a glimpse into the operation, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I run my own studio now for more than 16 years, 17 years now. And I actually started very well connected with imm, where I was showing at the Young Designer platform. Then I did the house here. Right. 7 years ago, 2016, and all this was always a great support. And then you meet clients. Of course, at the beginning you meet maybe smaller brands or unknown brands, and then you meet more popular ones, bigger ones, and step by step the studio was growing. So at the beginning I was alone, sitting in my former student apartment in the corner, and then the studio grew bigger, and at the end there was just a bedroom which was private and the rest was studio. So I think it was growing in a very nice, smooth way.
Right.
And over the years I got in contact, of course, with wonderful brands, newcomer brands also, but also very established brands. So, and nowadays, which is the biggest maybe privilege, is that I can be a little bit picky with brands I want to work with. But it's still, I really like to work with brands which are not so popular, like Armes, produced in Colombia, which is not really a design destination like Italy or Japan or Denmark. But for me it was fantastic to go there, for example. But on the other hand, there are big brands like Didon or Duravit, which is a completely different challenge and a different way of working also, because they have a huge expertise and knowledge behind and hundreds of people. But I like those varieties or different ways of working. And now we are in the studio all together. One guy is sitting in Bangkok, but in total we are together 8.
I mean, it's still relatively small as a studio, I would say, given the output that you have.
It's. I think that the size is quite normal for a studio just doing product design and furniture. You know, if you do then like Patricia Occhiola, if you do more in interior, then you easily
more
have
projects,
40 people more.
Right, right. I think I'm right in saying that you get approached by a lot of manufacturers, a lot of brands to potentially collaborate with them. What is, at this point in time, what would be your what would inform your decision-making criteria? What's important for you now at this stage in your career in terms of what you want to express, how you want to take your brand further, take a company further, but also what your responsibility is now as a designer at this point in time?
Yeah, I think nowadays, of course, running a company with 7 employees, of course, a completely different business than being alone. You need to have your money going every month at the end.
A lot of mouths to feed.
And of course, you study something creative, and suddenly, over the 16 years, you have to become also a business person, a marketing person, and much more. You know, at the beginning, I was sketching 80-90% a day. Nowadays, I'm sketching 10-20%, and the others are phone calls and keeping the, like I said, business running and staying in the contact with the companies. And and nowadays, of course, it's getting more important that the collaboration is successful. But sometimes, of course, I can do also projects which are maybe at the end more fun because it's quite interesting topic or nice material or nice innovation or a nice country you work with or nice people. But of course, the decision for a collaboration is always very personal. So I have to meet the people. So I fly there to see the factory, to meet the people, and it could happen also that after 1 year I say, okay, it was maybe not the best collaboration. So I think as a designer you have a huge responsibility for the brand, but also the other way. So of course everyone says, we want to have ongoing projects and want to develop one, and next year another one, but sometimes it's not happening. That's why you have also sometimes a lot of brands in your portfolio, but you're not working anymore. So this happens, you know, you need reliable partners on the other side. But this is a relationship, and I think in our field, sometimes working like with Duravit or Dedon 3-4 years on a project, you really need to trust each other and really work hands-on together on the development.
So I mean, it's so there's part of it is strategic, the way you decide which brands you work with, but also this instinct as well. I guess you have to feel that kind of
sure
that potential.
And is the topic interesting? Is the material interesting? So I had requests from companies doing plastic furnitures for indoor, and with all the companies I didn't start with. So of course I do products made with a plastic fiber like for Dedon, but there it makes sense because it's for outdoor and it's the most resistant material, let's say. But for me, like with Tonet, it was clear that I would work on a wooden chair for them, and they can produce in-house, and I know the quality, and it's a company for more than 200 years. And I think that's an amazing collaboration, ongoing collaboration also. And on the other hand, I also really like to grow with companies together. So there are a lot of like startups. They approach me on my studio, and then we discuss as a studio also, can we do it? But with other companies working on a project for several years, we need to ask for a fee, for a design fee. So I think this is also a topic you don't really learn at university. So you learn in the dialogue with colleagues. So I talk with Luca Nicchetto or other colleagues because there's a quite nice exchange, and we discussed. We need to charge something for the design fee because normal, more or less, is that you get royalties for every piece they sell. But like this, if you work 3 years on something, it's very risky because it happens also, and this happened also to me, that then after 2 years or 3 years, the company sold to investment group. They change all the people behind the scenes.
Or maybe the product drops out of their
or the
portfolio.
marketing says, it's 10 euros too expensive, so we don't do it. And then you invested 3 years of your work and time and team just for free, and you get nothing.
I mean, would you argue that this is a model that is unfair to product designers, the royalty model?
I think this model exists since, I don't know, 30, 40 years, when it was interesting because the lifetime of a product was much longer and the competition was less. Nowadays, going to this show or the Milan one, or then there's Copenhagen, there are so many new products, and sometimes the products will never enter the stores because they just show prototypes, some brands. No, this happens also. So you need really I think the respect from the brand, but obviously otherwise I need to have the responsibility and the respect that it's really a product which goes into the market. Otherwise it doesn't make sense. Right. And I think that's very important to have those partners who really believe in you, in your story, and that you're really on one side to get the product run.
Do you feel that brands ever approach you just for the marketing effect that they think they would have by collaborating with you?
Yeah, honestly, of course, there are some companies asking you for the name, but and that they have one product and then they can have the name on the wall. This happens for sure, but this is I think sometimes you really realize it in the first meetings, and then you don't.
Then you don't go further.
No, then you don't go for it because I think. Sometimes it's really like this, that the product takes like 2-3 years that it's really into the market, you know. And I sometimes think a fair would be also good just every 2 years. No, not every year to have new products, because we're always talking about sustainability. But this means also that a product really kicks off on the market, and it's not possible to show now a product on a fair. Then maybe it's delivered to the store 7, 8, 10 months later, and then 2 months later they go again to this brand or to the fair, and then they have to order completely new stuff, because sometimes they present the product just one time on a fair or 1 year on different fairs. And I think it's much more important really to give a product the possibility to grow and to be in contact with all the visitors on a fair.
Is there too much design? Are there too many products out there? And
yes.
What is your role and your responsibility in that? Are you part of the problem?
Yeah, I think that's quite tricky. Of course, you need to work with your team, with 8 people. They need to have something to work on one hand. But on the other hand, we know it also how much we consume. I think we all consume far too much, or maybe also in the wrong way. And we have it in our hand every single day. If we go to a supermarket or online shops, whatever, what we buy, how often we buy, do we buy quality or just because the price is okay? And I think it's our all possibility now to change sometimes also our behaviors on the consumer side, but also of course on the design side. And you mentioned it before about I can say that I know from almost all my products the production sites. So that's why I was traveling like crazy before COVID. Now it's starting again, so I went just to see. We just have been to Nepal, Kathmandu, and to Morocco to see the productions of rugs.
Right.
You know, and of course there are amazing people sitting on a rug like 6 months doing all the knots. And for this project, which is a new company doing rugs, M2 Rugs from Hamburg, we are working together with Label Step from Switzerland, and they have people in Kathmandu taking care of the production. So to really check, okay, is the light correct in the ateliers, in the studios, the working hours. So a weaver at a loom needs to be 16, and then, you know, at the dyeing company they have to be 18 years old. So it's similar like in Europe, working as a carpenter or going to a school to learn a craft. So they really take care about the human rights and everything, production rights and so on. And I think that's important for me as a designer also, that I know it's not just about the sketch and design, shape, color and so on. It's also the way, where's the production, where do they source the materials, is it possible to recycle? And there are so many questions we have to answer nowadays and have to discuss with the company.
Do many of your clients talk about different models of selling products? So, more of a kind of a rental economy, or more of a subscription model whereby a manufacturer will, as a user, you will have a subscription with, say, a furniture manufacturer where you will have, not own, but you will have certain products of theirs in your home for X number of years, and then you return them. They can be exchanged for other products, or they'll be refurbished and resupplied to you, or if you do buy them, there's the guarantee you can sell them back to the manufacturer. Is that a conversation you feel is in reality is taking place much in the industry on the manufacturer side?
At the companies I'm working with, it's not a topic at the
Right.
moment, I would say.
Okay.
I think like sustainability, of course, it's a big word. I know now some companies, they really have a sustainability manager in the company. Sometimes it's just part of the marketing. Then they call you, can you say something for the press text about sustainability? But like for example, Tradition, they have now a sustainability manager. She studied this, and she's really taking care that the upholstery is loose, that it's not glued, that they can remove it, and all the single parts of a chair after lifetime, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years, they can really recycle it properly. But on the other hand, working with Wittmann from Austria, if you go to the workshop, sometimes you see a really old sofa with a Laura Ashley fabric.
Yes.
And then you ask him, what's the story behind the sofa? And then they tell you, that's a old lady from Vienna. The husband passed away. She moves to a small apartment. Now she wants the sofa in a velvet, in a pink velvet, whatever. And they really can repair it. They upholster it, new spring maybe, whatever, new foam, and then it's like a second life for the sofa. And I think the service is very important, that companies can provide the service. There are many brands, they are just interested in the growth, not to sell after 10 years to an investment group or to a big American company. And they are not actually interested, or they can't provide the service because they produce somewhere completely else, and they are just shipping the goods.
And they also don't necessarily know who their customers are. I mean, if brands often, they sell through third parties, and through retailers, and they don't know who. And I think this is where blockchain technology, NFT technology comes in, whereby every product will probably in the future come with its own individual certificate of authentication linked to that physical product. And every time the product changes hands on the secondary market or sold for a third time, the manufacturer will know who it's gone to, because that ownership of the NFT will be registered by the new user. And so I think there's a lot of potential there for creating these communities between users and brands, and that should allow more of a kind of more of a service culture where products are returned for upgrading or are sold back to the manufacturer and so on. I want to ask you, Sebastian, about these 8 people, because in your studio, because I imagine they work very hard with the amount of products that your studio launches every year, wonderful products. How do you find these people? Do you meet designers and think, this person is completely Sebastian Herkner from top to bottom, I'm going to take them? Or I mean, or do they come and do you mold them? Do you shape them?
Yeah, well, all of them, they did an internship at my studio. And there's like Sarah, or she studied, I think, in Aachen, coming originally from Cologne. She's with me now for 8 years.
Right.
Then there's Betty from France. She worked for a designer in Paris before.
Oh, I spoke to her on the phone once. She's got a great voice.
Yeah.
Betty Montereau, you should make sure that only she answers the phone, because she's brilliant. It's like poetry talking to her on the phone.
She was working actually in Paris at a design studio, living in a small attic, flat. And then she did an internship, and now she fell also in love with Offenbach, because she has a bigger apartment now, going to the local market, cooking. She has a small ceramic atelier, and she really feels comfortable there. Then I have 2 guys from Thailand. They started in Bangkok and in Dessau at the Bauhaus University.
Oh, no way.
And amazing guys, really, really nice. And I really like to have this mix of different cultures, and a Swiss guy and another German one. Yeah. And it's really nice to have different backgrounds, I think. I don't want to have copies of myself. I think that's horrible. It's more interesting really to have those different cultural backgrounds in from the university perspective, because I'm the only one studied in Offenbach, which has very strong, let's say, DNA or way of designing.
Particular approach.
And it's good to have really those guys from Thailand, because they have a completely different mindset and background, and that's quite interesting to have the team together.
What would your advice be to young people or older people graduating now? I mean, we know it's not easy.
Finally now it's easier because there are fairs again. Like I mentioned, I have been to a lot of young designer platforms, like here, like Salone Satellite, like the ones at Ambiente Dance in Frankfurt, which is a big support for young people to meet journalists first.
Right.
Most important at the beginning, because they put you in the magazines, and then you have maybe some companies running around, some company members, and of course also the audience at the end, which are buying the products. So that's an amazing exchange. So this was a big support for myself. But on the other hand, I think I'm a good example with Offenbach. Offenbach International, nobody knows. There's not a need really to move to London, to Milan, to Paris, to New York, whatever, to all those super expensive design cities. I think you need internet, you need maybe an airport close by, and you need to feel comfortable, you know. If I know a lot of colleagues, they are still working from home in Paris because they can't afford a studio, a separate atelier, but it's so important to have the distance, I think, and to have, even it's a 5 minutes walk like for me, or 10 minutes walk to the studio, you're sometimes outside. And before I was just working in my student apartment, so really have the distance now, which is good. And I think you can do it the same from Bucharest or from Warsaw or wherever you are. I think more important is I had to have those platforms like fairs. I was really missing to get in contact with people, to meet companies, to see what the colleagues are doing, to have really the exchange.
You heard the man. Fairs. This is a fair. We are at a fair, and Sebastian's here, which is why I'd like to open it up to you guys to ask some questions, about Sebastian's work, or advice on maybe the business side of things. Some of you are architects, some of you are interior designers. There's some product designers here I know as well. So please, don't be shy. It always takes one person to ask the first question, and then 10 come. Oh, look, microphone's already been grabbed. Great. The woman in blue.
Hello.
Hello.
So, Sebastian, you have reached, in Europe especially, so much already. You are working with so many brands. You're all over the place, very famous. So is there still something like a dream professionally? Where do you see yourself like in 10 years? Like, I don't know, teaching as a professor at a design school, or is there still something that you want to reach professionally, like a big dream that you haven't achieved so far, that you want to share with us?
Yeah, well, I think I had more dreams when I was young, growing up in a small village, and then watching Wetten Das and thinking about all those people sitting on the sofa, and I thought, wow, that's cool. So this was really a dream. I wanted to go away from that small village, and now
you want to go back to the village?
Sometimes more countryside again, yeah. But come on, I have an amazing life. It's a huge privilege to travel around the world. With my parents, I did a lot of camping around France and Italy, so I saw all the churches in France. By the way, for over 6 years, every year 4 weeks churches, and I think I'm a privileged life, and I think we all have to learn to be satisfied, and this I learned really when I was a couple of years ago in Zimbabwe. After Milan Fair, I went to Zimbabwe to have a workshop with women doing baskets. And they were also satisfied that someone came first, that the kids have something to eat, and they have something to work, and they earn like $5 a month. And I think we all need to learn to be happy with the possibilities we all have. And I'm really happy to have great companies I can work with, amazing team, private, everything goes well. So there's not the dream to do an airplane or a car or whatever. Of course, maybe stage setting for opera would be maybe fun, or to do a hotel. But it's not really a bucket list. I have to make my hook.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because it is often like an airplane or a car that designers give as an answer, don't they?
You know,
or a yacht, a super
bathroom
yacht.
was also always interested in. Now we did the Dorwit one, which is a great experience. We are starting with another collections now. Maybe a kitchen could be nice, but it's not really like. I think we get so interesting approaches or a project, and then we decide with the team if we would like to do it. But I think it would stress me too much if I would have, okay, and now I need someone who wants to do a car with me. I think we are super happy that we can do what we want for now more than 16 years. You know?
I mean, are you someone who do you have a very clear vision of the direction you want to go in creatively, or do you? I mean, you talk about gratitude, which is in terms of our mental health, a very healthy attitude to have, to be grateful for what we have. But in terms of the business, do you have an idea of where you wanted the direction you wanted to go in?
Yeah, someone asked me also a couple of years ago if I have a business plan. Maybe I have one somewhere, but there's nothing written.
It's not explicit.
You know, we are 8 people, and I think it's a perfect size. If I would go really more in interior, they need 30, 40 more. I have to move the studio, and then I think it's a completely different wheel. You are stuck in, and you need to run. And I think now at the moment for us and for me and my partner, it's all perfect like this, and it's very nice team with the partners, like I said, and I'm super privileged, I think.
Great. What's your greatest unrealized project, or your dream?
I will not share this.
Oh, okay. Too bad. Anyone else? Please use this opportunity to ask. Oh, yes. Person at the back, who is remarkably spotlit, like this.
Hi. For young designers, is there a tip that you could give them how to approach clients, or what did you do then when you were young and nobody knew you?
Yeah, well, when I was young, I was on the fair running out with a PDF printed out. There was no tablet at that time, so you run around with your bag and with your papers and try to get in contact with them. But of course, that's quite hard, knocking doors all the time during the fair, and then the company says, no, we are here to sell products, and But the most important thing is that you really keep on going to them, try again. So with some companies I was knocking doors like 5-6 years, like with Ligne Rosé, and then finally we started product a couple of years ago with Michel Rosé. So they observe you, and one day it clicks. Sometimes it's immediately, sometimes never, or they always say no, suddenly they call you, then you can decide if you say no now. But it takes time, but fairs are the best platform for this. That's why I was like, when I was young, on every fair, really knocking doors, meeting people, staying in contact with them, sending emails, and to be present also all the time. So not just 1 year, you have to go. I use the platforms for young designers every year. No, I did Salone Satellite 3 times in a row. Just to be present, and that the people remember you, because they observe you, but they want to see if there's a
If you have there's a longevity. If you have staying power.
Sure. And it takes like 5-6 years when you decide you do your own studio. And at the beginning I was teaching, and I was assistant teaching at my university, and I was working in a fashion store in Frankfurt for 400 euros, things like this, just to earn money to produce my prototypes for the fair. And this was the first 5-6 years, and then suddenly you have, with a bell table, was then easier to have a separate studio and the first intern or first employee. And but this always takes time, but you really need to believe in yourself. Of course, you have kind of mental support from friends and family. And it's a long way, but you really need to believe in yourself, otherwise it doesn't make sense.
I mean, you've been remarkably good at that, at being present. You know, really putting the work in, the time in, and being present.
And it was not at school time. I was not. I was I learned playing the violin. I never went to the orchestra at the school. My parents were super disappointed. I was just playing at Christmas at home alone, and also I was never in front of the chalkboard to say anything in front of the school or for a PDF presentation, or was it PDF at the time? Maybe not. But I never did it. I really learned it at university because design was then my comfort zone. So I really felt well. But
did you bring your violin with you today?
No. I quit it with 15. So
he takes musical requests, I've heard. So. Thank you. Thanks for the question. Anyone else before we wrap up?
I have another question for you. Because you're mentioning the bell table. Does it annoy you that in maybe nearly every article about you, it's mentioned? Everybody always mentions or associates the bell table to you. Is it okay, or does it annoy you because it was your breakthrough?
It's both. No, sometimes you feel like, who was it? Karel Gott with his Biene Meier song. Was it Biene Meier one? Yeah. No, but it's good to have another one like the Odalem for Pulpo or Embrace for Dedo. Now, if it would be just the one piece, would be sad. But of course, bell table is like my branding or tattoo somewhere. Of course, everyone comes to me and says, "Oh, this table, I love this table." Okay, and you think, okay, there are also some other products. You know,
I don't like it so much.
Do you think you would be here? Do you think you would be here if it wasn't for the bell table?
Yeah,
like,
well,
I mean, it's a tough question, I know, but it was your breakthrough.
Yeah, of course, the bell table was a huge support for my career. But if you think about, the table was designed 2009, then it was at Salone Satellite. Then it was selected by Wallpaper from Hugo McDonald.
That's right. To
be one of the top 5 of his products for Milan. That time I was running around with my printed documents to amazing brands like to Alistair from Establish & Sons, who was with Stella McCartney, knew him from Stella McCartney, my internship, to all Italian, German brands. I asked them if they would like to produce, and they all said no, it's a little bit old-fashioned with brass and glass. Because at that time, I think it was the same year also Tom Dixon started a lot with glass and metal. No, there's also this crafty material language. And then it took me 3 years that Classicon presented it again here at imm with a second size, with a coffee size. So it took it was 2012. And I invested that time I don't know, 3,000 euros just in moldings and my prototypes. Then I sold maybe 3-4 to private people like Christian Boris in Berlin. But that's it. But then suddenly the table really started well. And I know also from Classicon, from Oliver Holy, the owner, that also his agents and internal stuff was not so convinced of the table, because Classicon that time they had chrome, island grey, there was nothing gold like brass, no? And he really said, no, let's do it. And at the end now every agent, I think, has one at home. So it was really at the end also luck that they really picked it.
It could be it could be worse. You could be known for something else, and it is an absolutely beautiful thing. I'm surprised nobody's asked him how much money he's made from the bell table, but maybe you can ask him afterwards. Thank you so much, everybody. I've been Simon Keane-Cowell, Editor-in-Chief at Architonic, and this has been Sebastian Herkner.
Thank you. Thank you.